All right. Well, welcome everybody to our recording of our men's marriage webinar. Men, thanks for joining us and watching here online. I'm Carey, Pastor Carey, and I'm super excited to welcome these panelists here and love to introduce each one of them to you. And we're going to hear some great advice from them and how God has worked in their lives to help their marriages be thriving ones. Not perfect, but thriving. But I shouldn't speak for them. I should let them speak for themselves. So let's just go around and introduce everybody and see who we're chatting with tonight. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Okay, I'm Ron Jackson, and I've been in ministry now for about 45 years. In the last 15, I've been specializing in the area of marriage and family therapy. And I've been at the church we're at now for about, I think, 12 to 14 years. I've lost track. It seems like a short time, though.
Yeah.
Just another day in paradise, right, Ron?
Another day in paradise, that's right.
How long you been married?
42 years.
Nice, nice. All right, good to have you, Ron. Who else
Thank
we
you.
got here?
I'll go. My name is Mark Inchetta. I've been married to Valerie for 37 years. Been going to Cypress Neighborhood Church for now, been about 33 years. And I'm an usher and also on the elder board.
Nice. Good to have you, Mark.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Pastor Manuel Gonzalez here from Spanish ministry now in the neighborhood church, and be married with my wife Carolina, and we have a son Isaac who is 14 right now, and we've been married for 15 years, and also besides the pastor in the church, I'm a teacher in a Spanish speaking seminary for over 20 years too, and I'm glad to be here and just share with you as much as I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Good to have you, Pastor Manuel.
Thank you.
And I'm Dave Honey. I've been married to Ida for 29 years. Been attending neighborhood church for the last, I think, 15 or 16 years. I've been active in student ministries, leading a small youth group of high school students, and I've also served a couple of terms on the elder board.
Good, good.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Stonehoff. I've been married to my wife, Hannah, for 11 years. We have two children. Sam is about to turn 9, and Emma is 6. I've been attending neighborhood church for 13 years, and I just joined the elder board for my first term. And I also volunteer with children's ministry.
Awesome, awesome. And Nick's patching in live from a break from work. So if it looks like he's hanging out in the basement, he's making it work. He's got some good balance in it all. So we've already had something to learn from you, Nick. It's great seeing you guys here. Thanks for joining us, all of you. I've been married about 7 years, so I've got less than all of you, and looking forward to hearing a lot of good advice from you personally, as well as just having this be an opportunity and resource to share with all of our guys who might log in and get to hear from you. So let's just start it off. One of the things we wanted to chat about, we have a couple questions we did get from live, from our members, from people who have written in and had some questions. So first questions I'd like to read off for you is, how can we find joy in our marriages when we're in the middle of a dark, stressful season? How do you find joy in the midst of darkness in your marriage?
Well, I think it's really critical that you create these opportunities for joy, that you carve out time together. What Ida and I do on weekday mornings and pretty much every morning is we wake up about an hour earlier than we need to get ready for work. We spend time drinking coffee together, watching the sun come up, and we share time in God's Word. We read through the Bible. We share things that we're reading through. So that's a great way to start the day. We find if we don't do that early, we kind of miss out on that time. So that's one thing. Another thing is just to spend as much time together as you can, and really to have fun doing even small tasks, you know, turning on the music while we're doing dishes, and, you know, maybe dancing and just having fun. One of the things with COVID-19, we found that it's really slowed our world down a lot. So we actually do have a little bit more time, you know, to spend with each other. There are fewer demands on our time. One thing I would suggest is, you know, that just walking on the beach hand in hand is still a very safe activity, and that's a great way to have a connection there. So I do think it's really important to create these opportunities for joy. One of the verses that jumped out at me when we were when I knew I'd be speaking on this was Proverbs 5:18 tells us to rejoice in the wife of your youth. And Ida is very much the wife of my youth. We were 16 when we met, and that's always been one of my verses. And I think it's just important for us to remember, you know, how excited we all were when we first started courting our, you know, the woman who would become our wives, and just to keep that excitement with us all the time.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great, David. Super cool. And hi, my name's David Honey, and I like long walks on the beach. Carrying that all the way. That's awesome. Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts on that one?
I think one of the, for us and my wife and I, we've been knowing each other for 21 years, but we been married for 15. We kind of date for 5 years before we got married. But one of the things that I really think have been helping us going through this, you know, situation, because we both work, you know, and so it's kind of hard. But we try to do things together, even the small things, you know, like spend time in the garden, you know, just sit down on our porch, which we do very, very often, you know, as much as we can. Mm-hmm. You know, late afternoons, we sit down over there, drink a coffee. We laugh because I know many jokes in Spanish, so I tell a lot of jokes. And me and my wife, we just have like a really good time because she likes them, and we do things together. That's the key for me. You know, we even in this, you know, situation that we can go out too much outside, but here in the house there is a lot of great opportunities to, you know, do things together. And the key for me, it's I remember when I was dating her, one of the ways I always, you know, kind of like trying to help her to make the decisions to get married with me is that I quote a lot of verses in the Songs of Solomon's. And so I use a lot of text over there where it talks about, you know, the fun way to, you know, the marriage is really, you know, and by doing things together, the Shunammite and she says, you know, me and my love, we do this, we go there and everything. So I always keep in mind that doing things together, it's helping us to maintain that joy, you know, that freshness in our relationship. And that's something that we put a priority, just to have time together to do whatever it's in the house right now, because that's where we are spending most of the time besides work. So I believe that one of those things, it's been helping us, you know. And something else I could add is that reading something together, it's definitely something that connects us and help us to either have, you know, thoughts between us, and also, you know, the joy of sharing our feelings and our, you know, concerns, whatever we're reading, either is the Bible, a good book or something. But those two things, I believe that is been helping us go through this time right now, you know, with joy and just and happiness. That's for me, it's been a really good help.
Yeah, so it seems like similar to what you were sharing, David, that reading something together and sharing in that resource, especially if it's the Bible, and also just shared experiences in general, even if it's mundane household tasks, finding joy in those together. Yeah, anyone else have anything to add to that?
Well, I kind of go along along the same thoughts as what Dave and Pastor were saying about, doing the little things, or even taking little walks together, especially being in the summertime, it stays light out later. So after you have dinner and just take a walk and just enjoy each other's company. I always, I always tell, if you put your wife first, life is pretty easy, and it just kind of put her needs above your needs, and it works out. So, I always joke around when Val's cousins were getting married. I always use this couple of lines. He goes, "Okay, give him your words of advice there, or your wisdom there." And I goes, "Just say yes, dear, and whatever you say, dear."
Yeah, right in this, right.
But it's a two-way street, because if she looks out for you and you look out for her, it's just,
Yeah.
she makes my life easy. That's for sure. She really
Yeah.
does.
True.
That's awesome.
I think what I have found out in my marriage is working at making sure my wife is my best friend.
Mm.
Not my only friend, but my best. I mean, I'd rather do things with my wife than with most anybody else.
Yeah.
That doesn't include shooting guns, but it does include any other stuff, just being with her, just enjoying the time with her. I feel content because we know each other's thoughts. We know what we like with one another. And I just find that contentment of I'm with somebody I can trust, someone that will not attack me. And I work at not trying to be attacking her or being critical of her, but working at accepting her in the way God made her. And sometimes I'd have to say in my many years of marriage, I've not been real good at that. But I'm learning more and more to say, this is God's unique creature. I need to learn about her and not make her into what I want.
Right. Wonderful.
That's huge.
So Ron, you're saying there's more learning for me too, for all of us?
You've got a long way to go.
Yeah, it sounds like I do have a long way to go.
My office is open to you.
Okay.
There's always somewhere to go forward. Yeah.
You're always learning,
Yeah.
aren't we?
Calling us
You're
to.
always learning.
Yeah. That kind of brings up a good point too. Let's say someone's just starting off their marriage. And I think maybe of myself, been married, 7 years, but someone who's maybe just starting into a marriage, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, what would be some advice you guys would give to those guys just starting off their marriage? How can they build a thriving marriage right as they're in the very beginning of it?
Early habits. Don't say in a few years when we get settled, or maybe in 5 years we'll begin a new program of our being together as a couple. They need to push on it right in the beginning. The devotional time, the prayer time, the time together. And even though you're going to be pressured with new jobs and no money and the pressures of buying a home or a car or whatever, you got to push those things aside. You must push those things aside, because it's not going to be any easier after 10 years to, well, now let's start doing something on our spiritual walk, or now let's start doing this together. You got to make it a habit early on, and it might get pushed off the plate sometimes. You might say, well, we've got a couple of months have not done it. Turn around, get back on that horse again. But early habits of reading, of praying together, of just stopping to say grace at a meal if that's all you can do, but really make an effort to keep those early habits going. Better to build the grooves now than try to build them later.
And because I've been experienced that in this few years that we have with my wife, it goes by by times, and I think we need to enjoy in the time that we have married, or meaning like once you pass 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, things are changing different. In the beginning, it's a lot of attraction, a lot of passion, a lot of you know, co- um, how do I can put it? A lot of time just for ourselves. Then change it to, you know, a lot of work. Change it to our kids. And I think the something that has been helping us is that we've been adapt our, you know, marriage to certain times that we're going through. Like right now, our son is 14. There's a different way that we treat our time together. So just learn to adapt in the times that you are in marriage. If you are right now without kids, you know, well, you can do a lot of things together and focus doing other stuff. And when you have kids, things change, or when you change, you know, schedules or whatever. We're just learning that, you know, in the first 2-3 years, like in our case, it was a lot of trouble. You know, we like to travel a lot. So we travel a lot before we settle with our kid. So we just, you know, in the beginning, you just learn to go through your marriage by times that, you know, you're going to, and that allows you to enjoy this time if you don't have kids, or when you have kids, when you start work, because for a long time, my wife didn't work. You know, so it was different, sort of a kind of different relationship, different things to do, but now, you know, we are in the time where, you know, both work, and we have a teenager where we need to put a lot of attention to him, both of us, and so we learn to enjoy our time in a different way, but still, you know, enjoying it, and try to, you know, never lose that time together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point too, because there's a lot of, it sounds like, adaptability that needs to be baked into a marriage too. You start off with certain habits and certain abilities, and then they change. Times
Yeah.
change, you change, your kids change. Um, yeah, that's good. I Nick, I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but I'm thinking, man, you know,
Nah,
you're on the younger side. What has been like a good start, or things that you guys have found have been successful for starting your marriage off too?
I think that one of the things for newly married couples to do is to have a dose of reality, in terms of like, this marriage is hard, marriage is challenging, and just, you know, when you're young and you're in love and you're just first married, everything is wonderful and blissful and you're so excited, the world is your oyster, and not everyone stops and says, you know, what am I getting myself into? What is this really about? And that I got to be ready for challenges and difficulties. And how am I going to handle those when they come up? So just that reality check initially, and then I would say one of the things that Hannah and I have done, from the start of our marriage, is we are intentional about pausing and counting our blessings.
Mm.
We have lots of conversations with each other of, man, you know, we have our health, our kids are, you know, healthy. We have friends and family that support us. We have a wonderful church family. We have opportunities to serve. We both, you know, we have good jobs and whatnot. And obviously, you have times where, you know, finances are a struggle, job schedule changes, or maybe you lose your job, or maybe it isn't going the best. But even with all that stuff that happens, if you take time to count your blessings and share those with each other, and focus on the positive and the blessings that are in your life, it's just a very fruitful opportunity, and a joyful experience despite, you know, difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And that's cool to hear you say that it's not just a way to survive, but you can actually find joy through that experience too. Like, yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Thanks, you guys. We've got some other questions I want to hit here too. Let's see here. We've got, they were talking about some more questions that were submitted here. Although sometimes in our marriages we go through seasonal rough patches, we can expect those. But when do you know it's time to seek professional counseling? And of course, we'll refer to you, Ron, with this one too. But for the rest of you guys too, when do you know you need to seek out someone else? We've ironed things through. We've tried to figure things out. We've fought through stuff. When do we need to seek outside help? What do you guys think?
Well, I would say most of the couples that come to me for help come way too late. There's been a lot of damage done. They've said hurtful things. They've done hurtful things. They've tried foolish and radical things to change their marriage. They've gotten some bad advice from others. But when you begin to realize things aren't working out, those aren't always minor course corrections, or they could be in the beginning. But later on, as you begin to heap wound upon wound, it's a hard road back, because we can forgive, but we don't always forget. And I've seen a lot of couples that the hardest thing to do is to rebuild trust when it's been broken through either a physical affair or an emotional affair, or just lying or being deceitful about the finances. And those things break that sense of bonding. And it is extremely hard, not impossible, but extremely hard to build back from that. So I say it's always better to check in with a good friend or a pastor or even a therapist. You don't have to sign up for 20 sessions. You might just say, we just want to talk to you about, we have this issue. And it could be 1 or 2 meetings, and kind of, oh, we hadn't thought of that perspective. And that's very helpful to do that. But by the time most people come to me as a professional, there's scars, and they're bleeding. And they say, can you fix this in 2 sessions? And I have this mental thought in my mind, I should bring a handgun on my desk and say, who wants the ultimate cure? Because they've gone so long. It's that painful. So I would say, when things begin to go wrong, seek out a good friend. And obviously I'm talking about Christ as that good friend of ours. Go to your pastor, go to an elder, go to someone and say, I need help. And then for those of us that hear that person coming at us for help, we need to promise them about our confidentiality. When people talk to us about their difficulties, it stops with us. Unless it's beyond our ability, then you ask permission, can I go talk to my friend about this? And so you got to help beyond that. But you got to talk early, and we have to be that receptacle to hear their pain and to protect them from gossip.
Thanks, Ron. Anyone else kind of have advice on that too, and just seeking out help? When is it a time to seek out help?
That was pretty good.
Ron,
I think Ron covered
it.
Well, I'll face it.
Next question.
I'm done, so I'll check out. I'll leave the meeting now. So
Yeah, go get yourself.
Thank you, Ron.
I'll send you guys all a bill. So
To carry.
Awesome. What do you guys think about thinking about this question? One of our guys writes in, he says, what are some ways to create better habits of spending focused time with the Lord? You know, David, you kind of mentioned how you and your wife spend some focused time with the Lord in God's word in the mornings. What are some ways to create habits of things like that, especially when your time and your energy levels are really low from just the day-to-day grind? How do you establish those kind of patterns when life's tough? What do you guys all think?
Yeah, like I had mentioned, we started off at the beginning of the day, because I mean, it sounds terrible to say, but if we don't, at the end of the day, into the night, that time might not be there. I know different times, different schedules might definitely work out for other people, but for Ida and I, it's definitely that focused time in the morning.
Starting it right off from the beginning, making sure it's pushed out. Yeah. Anyone else have any kind of experience with that too? Or even different times?
As we've find out that we don't establish a very specific time and creating our habits to be together, especially by reading or praying. But we always try to as we go in our days and we fit a few minutes or a couple hours. For example, for us, it's always been like in the weekends where we spend the most time and reading or praying, because that's when our schedules slow down. Like I have a schedule. I work only 3 days a week, so I only work from Tuesday through Wednesday through Thursday, and my wife work only two days. She works on Monday and Fridays. So when she's not home, I'm home, and when I'm home, she's not home. And so, but mainly we get together by Friday night. We start kind of like our habit to do something, more spiritually, because over the other days it's kind of hard. When I'm home, she's not home, and things like that. But we've been, kind of like just go with the days. If we have like for example, Thursday, they cancel something for me in the night, then I go like, hey, here is a good time that we can do something, either with reading, praying, or call someone or whatever. Just but we, because the way we are setting our schedule, we don't have nothing specific every day. But yeah, any time in the weekend that we find that time, we just fit it there. And it's been helping us a lot to keep together in the same feeling of the spiritual realm, but definitely we know that we, at least in the weekends, we have to have some time to do some together, so we can keep up with our spiritual life accountable, and also sharing what we learn, sharing what we are going through, so we can pray either for her family, my family, our own family, or somebody in the church, which is weekends for us has been great, especially after Friday nights when she's home already and I'm home already. And so then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we just spend and try to find something in those days to feed our spiritual life.
That's good. Yeah, you're finding time where you can and making good use of that time. Like,
Yes.
Not letting it pass by. That's good. Yeah, I think that sounds like really good. Just being strategic with your time. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Well, normally, kind of like Pastor Manuel's scheduling, Val works a couple of days out of the week, and luckily enough, or I'm blessed to work with her those 2 days that she does work. So in the mornings, especially when things are, if there's something on our that's going on within our family or friends, we will park there and we'll just have a quick prayer together, and we'll lift up the day. And it says first seek His kingdom and His righteousness, and all this will be added onto you. So
Yeah.
I have my quiet times when I go to work. I don't dare wake her up and say, hey, let's have a quiet time. She loves to sleep. I'm not gonna awaken her, but we do have our prayer times, like on the days that we do go to work together. So that's kind of nice, and kind of sets the day in the tone, or hopefully with my attitude at work at times. So
Nice. That's cool even to hear too, Mark, how that influences how you guys work.
yeah.
Mm.
The witness you may have there, the attitude you have, even not just you at work, but her at work too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have to echo that too. I think cannot overstate the importance of praying with our wives
Sure.
as regularly as possible. Our lives are just so much more full and everything. We just seem much closer, and just the day seems to be much more clear when we have that time in prayer together.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, one thing that kind of makes me think too, as you're talking about praying together and the flexibility. I even think too that it's nice, David, how you mentioned you and your wife have a set time that she can expect. Because Mark, like you were saying, if you're waking your wife up and saying, "Hey, wake up, let's pray," and she's not ready for it, that might not build a thriving marriage at the moment.
No.
Like, so yeah, like having kind of some maybe rhythms, like you're even saying, grooves, Ron, that maybe that she can be ready for those moments, or like you were saying, Pastor Manuel, the weekends where she knows to expect it. There's almost a rhythm or a pattern built in where you guys can look forward to those times too. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Cool. Another question we got here online. Love to read this one. One of our guys was writing. He says, "How do you transition in your marriage when you've been working 40 to 80-hour work weeks for 40 years and suddenly you retire? What does that look like? How do you make that work?" So I know not all of us have retired already. In fact, I don't think any of us have. But what would you guys, based on the mentors you've had or the things you've learned, what advice would you give to this man?
I think in this case, if this person submit that question, one of the advices I will give him, you got to slow down a little bit. So, not suddenly, like, I'm saying this for my own experience, but, over the time I've been cutting my days at work. Like I used to work, of course, full time, many hours and everything. Then I decided to start taking Mondays off because that was the day that I feel like really more tired than any other day after Sundays, teaching and preaching and during the week that where I go, teaching the seminary and everything. And then I had a job, full-time job, full-time pastor, teaching in the seminary. So I decided to cut Mondays off, and eventually Fridays off. I'm very planning to next year probably cut another day. So to work only 2 days, because I know that there is going to be a time where I have to, leave the job and concentrate on my family. And hopefully I'm retired in about 17, 20 years. I don't know when, but what I'm saying is that if you overloaded with work and you're soon to retire, it's do it little by little, because there's a lot of things that you're going to find that when you retire, probably, it's going to be hard to schedule in your time, because you were consuming with job and everything. So I think I would suggest, even now, slow down a little bit and try to find ways that you can use the time that you're not going to have at work now in something else, either with your wife, your kids, in home, in the ministry. So that will give you, already the training, or to when you retire, you have something already that you start, because you kind of slow down in your time that you work.
Yeah, gradual transition.
Yeah, exactly.
Abrupt, sudden thing. Yeah, Mark, it looks like you might be have something you wanted to say too.
Me?
Yeah, it looked like you're about to say something.
Well, no, well, it's funny because we've been having this conversation, Val and I, and I mean, I'm approaching that time of retirement, and maybe another 4 years from now. But he would always ask me, like, "What's that gonna look like?" I go, "I don't know yet. I haven't really thought about it too much." But she goes, "Well, it's gonna be real different when you're gonna be home all day long." So I always joke around, and I think, well, maybe what I'll do, I'll retire, but then I'll just go to the beach for 8 hours, like I'm working. And then I'll come home and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Then kind of little by little, less time at the beach, and I'd be, so it kind of ease my way in home. No. You gotta find something to do. But like Pastor Manuel was saying about maybe finding something to volunteer,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, you know, giving yourself to other causes or helping. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you could do out there, but I don't really find myself sitting around so much. I hope not, but I hope to keep myself pretty busy. Maybe, you know, of course, spend time with the wife and grandkids and all that. But I'm sure I would have to find something for me to do. Val says I can't surf all day. Well, I could if you really let me, but I don't think
Surfing eight hours a day, 5 days a week.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I would try it for a little while though.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be good.
Man, living the dream. I love what you said though, Mark, and that's I think this is a great question for us as men too. We're designed to create and build and do things, and we want to do things for the kingdom. We want to serve God,
Right.
and make a difference in the world too. And a lot of that takes place at work as well, where we're creating and organizing and building and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, that doesn't have to end when we retire from our
No.
career job. What does God have for us next?
Right.
There's still so many things we can do, and together with our wives too. One other question hits us here. Bit of a pivot. Yes, we're talking about marriage. So our question says, how do you make sure marriage intimacy keeps its proper place and priority in the marriage throughout the years?
Wow.
This is important. No, this is huge. My mother-in-law's sage advice was, and I think Dave, you said it earlier about remaining the boyfriend, remaining the girlfriend. You know, having that spirit alive there, and for us, it may sound like it's the spontaneity or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes we put it in the schedule, because we used to work opposite shifts. We're tagging in the hallway, passing kids off, and when you get into that routine, there's no intimacy going on, and that's not good, And so we just made it. We were intentional about figuring out times, and just keeping it a priority and fitting it in. I mean, sometimes, okay, it's not the ideal situation. You don't have that, nice dinner and then, whatever, however you want to put it. But sometimes you just fit it in, make it work. And it's important to do that.
Good advice.
So, Nick, what day of the month is that for you?
Yeah. Hey.
I just really appreciate you sharing that, Nick, though, because we make time for what's important. And oftentimes important things seem slightly less urgent, so they get pushed off or pushed away. But
That's an easy one to push off. It's an easy one to push off.
Sure.
Good call. Any of you guys else just have more advice on that?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Ron.
No, I was going to say, most intimacy goes through stages. And the lowest point in most marriages is when you have teenagers. And a lot of it has to do with the scheduling, because you are both so busy and the kids are so demanding. But I've also felt there's something about shame at that point, like, why do we do this? And you just, we brought these kids into our lives, I just feel so bad about it. But the teenage years are the toughest years. But you have to talk about it. And I think Nick's solution was excellent. And that is, it sounds cold, but schedule it. Have a night of the week that you just can't do that meeting and you just can't make that phone call, and you just reserve it because it's important, not just for us as men, but for our wives to know they're appreciated and sought after as well. And we need to be the romantic as much as we can that night and say, well, what can I do that night? Maybe I can bring the dinner home. Maybe I can wash the dishes. I can put the kids to bed. So my wife isn't doing, honey, when you get it all done, I'll be in bed waiting for you. But rather the sharing of the responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I think the intimacy is so important. And when we're talking about intimacy, we also need to remember it's not just physical intimacy. I mean, there's other types of ways to be intimate that is critical. I don't think you can have just either one of these. So to have vulnerable conversations where you're sharing your fears, your hopes, and your dreams, and you're really opening up to each other. Physical intimacy is critical as well. And, Paul mentioned that our bodies belong to each other, and we're to give of each other, and to not deprive each other of that. So it is critical. And Nick, yeah, a great point. You want it to be spontaneous if you can, but other things, life happens, and you end up, not making something a priority that really needs to be a priority. So yeah, I think it's a great idea to set that time aside if necessary.
Great point, David. I think too, it's interesting, Ron, you mentioned the high school years, and I think David, with you sharing right after that, and I think you've been working in serving as a leader in our youth ministry for a long time, for many years, like you mentioned at the top of our time together. I'm just wondering, thinking about someone who is either in the high school years, or maybe even Nick, down to children, in children's ministry, folks who are not married yet, but they're looking towards it in the future. What is my marriage going to look like? What is it going to look like living with my wife in the future? This is a question for you guys, but for all of us too, for anyone. What would you guys share in terms of like just maybe one or two big things you'd want to share with someone who's not quite married yet, a young man who's looking to be married, but what advice would you share to him before he gets married?
Well, I would always say, when you start dating, you always want to impress the young lady, right? You're always doing this, that, taking her out here, taking her out there, and I just think that even though you get married, you don't stop dating your wife. You keep dating her. You keep giving her that Saturday night outing or Friday night outing, and because before you got married, you always try to find, I got to find some things I got to do with her this weekend, or whatever. But I just think if you keep dating your wife, the wife of our youth, like Dave was saying,
Yeah.
But I think that's important right there. Just keep dating your wife. So.
My advice would be to put Christ at the center. And the first few years of our marriage, Ida and I were not actively involved in church. We were Christian, we were believers, but kind of nominally, and we weren't really surrendered to a life devoted to Christ. And when we both got to that point, the marriage really took off as well. So I think that's a critical piece of advice that I would have to give to not forget that.
Good point.
I would offer. Go ahead, Pastor.
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
My advice that I would offer would be to have some serious conversations of what your future, what you want your future to look like, with your possible wife, and to really communicate your wants and your desires and where you see your life and everything like that. We were there once, 19, 20, 21 years old, and think you're in love and everything's wonderful, and the flowers smell so nice, and you're not thinking what marriage is going to look like and the challenges that marriage presents, and then you also have the notion that, well, if you see things that don't necessarily align with your desires and preferences and where you see your life headed, that don't align with the significant other, but you're like, oh, well, we'll fix that later, or they'll change, or those kind of ideas are real roadblocks that could pop up down the road. So just to know your partner very well and to make sure that you're on the same page going into it.
Yeah. Right.
I think because I came from a very dysfunctional family where I didn't see really, uh, my mom and my dad having a good relationship, happy relationship. They end up, of course, separating, and so I believe that when I was planning to marry, one of the things I helped me a lot, and I still recommend that, is that seek for help, for guidance. For people like Ron or Mark, that Dave, who are married for a long time before you make any major decision. It's so important that somebody help you to understand what is marriage really look like and what is it, because in our times dating someone, we're so excited, we're so in love, we're kind of blind to a lot of things. And I will always suggest the guys who comes to my office and says, Pastor, I find a girl and I think she's the one, and I'm planning to marry. And I say, so it's great, that's good, but before you do that, find a good solid marriage, and ask for guidance, ask for help, and advices from it, because you're going to find that you're going to change your mind a lot when somebody like Ron, for 43 years married, tells you what is really marriage is, and so then they change a little bit on the time they like I remember clearly one time a fellow brother came from to our church, and he asked me, Pastor, I wanted to get married. Can you marry me? I mean, can you perform my wedding and everything? And I said, well, we have to go find how much prepared you are before we do that. I wanted you to get to a counseling, and in my case, because I'm a very strong believer of you got to be financially, at least as much as you can stable. So I asked her, I say, how much you have saved for you to, to kind of thinking that you really want to get married. And soon lady says, no, I have no savings at all. And then you're not ready to get married. So, those things, I still believe that, it's very important that you understand, the economic impact and other areas of the marriage. So I think just seek for guidance, help, from solid marriage, married people that will help you to make a better decision when you get to that point.
Yeah. It's a good point that you bring up about savings, and marriage is so complex. There's financial, and there's also intimacy, and then there's family issues and backgrounds, and we've got our physical things going on, but also economical and social needs, and there's just a lot all wrapped up in that. So yeah, great to have advice from godly older men in your life, for especially us younger men who need it and need an honest picture of what marriage will look like, that we can be well prepared for what's coming up. Some of you mentioned too, just out of the example of your own marriage, where things didn't start off perfect and you've learned over time how to do things better. For a lot of our men who may be listening and thinking, man, that sure sounds great, but that sure isn't my marriage, or that wasn't my first marriage. What would you guys say to our men who may be listening in? How do you start over, or how do you turn over a new leaf? If someone's listening and a man is saying, hey, my marriage has not been great, or we're going through rough stuff, or we've made some mistakes, I've made some mistakes as a man. How do I start making those better, or how do I head in a new, fresh, healthy direction with my wife and my marriage?
I think one piece of advice I give is starting over is not always the best thing to do. Work with what you have. Ask forgiveness, grow up, Stop being such a jerk in your marriage. Recognize that you're probably the biggest part of the problem. And then I think, learn together. Just dumping the first wife and starting over again doesn't work. The statistics say most people get married for a third time because they didn't learn their lessons in the first marriage. They think they did. They fall in love and get romantic and get married again the second time. That didn't work. But the third marriage, they say, boy, marriage is hard. And yeah, it is. But by starting over is not always the answer. Work with what you have. If God has brought you together, and if you're married, I believe God has brought you together, learn to make that work. And you might be spending more money to a marriage counselor than you will for a divorce attorney, but it might well be worth it. If you did make promises to this partner, you should have the integrity to try to fulfill those things unless there's been terrible damage and mistrust. And even those can be walked away from and forgiven and moved forward to. But starting over is not always the answer. But it begins, I think, with the change of heart, a heart changed by Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. I agree with that. I think that's a great point. And yeah, God can restore anything. I think we need to come to Him in prayer, and we need to submit in marriage. We need to submit to each other, and we need to serve. And I think a lot of problems in marriage come maybe out of an unwillingness to serve without keeping score. Of whose turn it is to do something, but just to start every day on saying, how can I serve my wife today?
Good thought, yes.
Awesome.
And I think if the will of the two persons are ready to really practice what the Lord says when Paul wrote to the Ephesians and said to submit one another, which we know it's a military term that means, the moment we got married, we got to learn to submit one to the other, and when two couples wants to restore the relationship, they have to be willing to submit one another, and like Ron says, learn your mistakes, and forgive the mistakes one another, and just willing to practice what the Lord says. When we do it, we have the sort of speaking, the support from the Lord, so He can help us to change our hearts, our attitudes, and or desires, whatever it's been, damage our marriage. But I believe that that key submission, it has to be there if we want to restore a relationship, because submission is the key that is going to help us to to restore the marriage in the way that both persons are willing to admit their mistakes, both persons are willing to admit their failures, and also both them, they're willing to say, okay, I'm going to do my part, you're going to do your part, as the Lord says. And that's a piece of advice I always give to couples who come to me and they said, you know what, we feel that we need to start over, we need to fix our relationship. Well, Ephesians, go there, and if you're willing to submit one another, I think there's a very good chance that you guys will work in that marriage and refresh it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. This is great. I think it's good to see, for a lot of us coming from backgrounds where we didn't have healthy marriages modeled to us, or even come out of healthy marriages. It's really good to see that there are some that, again, aren't perfect, but are still grounded in the Lord and growing and doing okay, doing well because of Him. So
yes,
it's really great hearing from you guys. I don't want to keep you too long. I think I just have one more question I'd love to ask you. That what is one thing, and this can be short too or whatever, but what's one thing you do in your marriage with your wife that you guys just enjoy. It's fun. It's just something you do together for fun. What do you guys do?
I'm gonna sound very, I don't know, worldly, but we really enjoy watching TV. We do, we do. You know, especially Spanish-speaking programs that some of their funny ones that we really enjoy. We laugh a lot, and so our Sundays kind of night. It's like when we sit down, we watch this program that Spanish, and I can feel like it's such a good time that we spend because we laugh and then we comment about it and we just laugh about the program and everything. But that's one of the things that we really enjoy together. And the second is pray for our kids. I think my wife and I, we delighted just to bring the Lord to our kids because I think, you know, that's one of the and see you know, how God is answer our prayers. It's even add to, you know, the joy that we have. And so we really, I can see that my wife's face when she can see my face when we go like, well, we have to pray for them, you know, we have to pray for them, we have to pray for them. And we delight to that. And it's fun because that's the only thing sometimes we can do for them.
That's great. Yeah, you're finding joy laughing together and even joy in praying together. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Well, Val and I, before all this COVID stuff, we love going country dancing. So we do a lot of two-stepping and line dancing. So that's our Friday nights up until this COVID come up. So we miss it. But every once in a while, if we're playing country music in the at home, we'll say, "Oh, here's a line dance." So we'll do a little line dance together, or we'll two-step around a little bit. So and we miss it, yeah. So hope, Lord willing, all this thing gets better, and we'll be able to go back dancing. So we have a good time doing that. And she loves to play games, and I'm not a game person, but she loves to play games. So I'm learning how to play some games with her. So.
Yes,
sir.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. What about the rest of you guys?
I think maybe I'm a little bit like Manuel, except my wife liked to go to the movies. And so we always want to get to a good movie, and they're frankly harder to find. The good ones. Even the ones rated pretty good, I go, did they have to put that scene in there? Did they talk this way?
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's becoming less of a joy. And right now with COVID, kind of like, what movies? So, but we do enjoy watching Netflix at home, having a glass of iced tea and watching a movie. And she loves the romance things. And I enjoy her when she watches the romances because it's funny. She gets really into it. And she's just kind of hoping this will happen. I go, Marilyn, they're actors or actresses. They don't care. And she looks and says, you better hope they care or we're done. So it's kind of like, so she loves her movies. We love them doing them together.
Awesome. What about you, David, Nick?
I would say one of the things that we enjoy the most as a team is hosting. We love to host holidays with family. We love to host friends. We do all kinds of stuff whenever we get the opportunity. That's probably our favorite thing to do together.
Yeah, that is fun.
Nice.
Right.
We love to do things outside, hiking, camping, kayaking, and we play tennis once a week with Lance and Susan Peterson, and that's just another, plug to do things with godly couples. We often have time afterwards where we pray and share what's going on with each other. And if you follow Susan on Facebook, you'll see that she called us out for being all four of us stupid enough to be playing today at about 11:30. It was about 100 degrees out, but getting outside together gives us a lot of joy.
Sure.
Awesome. That's true commitment too, even in the heat. Good stuff. Yeah, for Emily and I, we've found that Emily loves music, and I got to play in a band for a little while too, and just singing songs together, singing together, playing instruments together. It's been kind of a neat way we've been able to connect over this quarantine season 2. And also just going on adventures, exploring, traveling. Yeah, man, it's evident to see, just a joy to get to see how God has worked in each of your marriages, you guys. And thanks for sharing from them with us tonight. Super glad you guys could be here and share with us. It's been fun. I'm just going to share a quick screen to say, hey, if anyone wants, if you're watching this and you want to learn more, let me see here. Oh, we have another webinar that we did back in June. Was a great time spent talking with men about fatherhood. Advice from dads, sharing about how to be a great dad and how to find great resources in Christ again as we try to shepherd our kids towards God. So go ahead and check that out again, neighborhoodchurch.com/dads, and you can find the recording right there. It's been great having you here. If you are watching this recording, so glad that you could be here with us. Hope you enjoy all of our all church focus with all the resources that are there. I'm glad you could join us for this one too. And we hope to see you at some other cool resources here at Neighborhood Church. Thanks, you guys.